These are the major issues that I would like to discuss today that affect the minority communities in Malaysia. Basically, Malaysia achieved independence in 1957, and that is the Peninsular Malaysia, and the states of Borneo, of Sabah and Sarawak, joined the Peninsula in 1963. Now, when the Constitution of Malaysia was drafted in 1957, the British government, had actually sanctioned a brand of apartheid in the Malaysian Federal Constitution. Now,
please allow me to introduce my colleague from the Party for Freedom, Raymond de Roo. I'm very happy that you can join us.
Thank you.
thank you.
Raymond,
If you sit here because we have a presentation. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Peninsular Malaysia achieved its independence in 1957, and at the time of independence, the British government had actually sanctioned a brand of apartheid in the Malaysian Federal Constitution, which is called Article 153. Now, Article 153 actually has a policy which favors the majority Malay Muslim community in the country. Now, using this particular Article 153, the government of Malaysia has taken over the administration of the country. 95% of the 1.2 million government employees are the majority Malay Muslims. Now, using the government administration, they have actually used the government machinery to violate the basic human rights of other communities, not only the Indian community, but the other communities in Malaysia. And they also have a training program which is called the BTN, which is actually meant to be a National Bureau Service. Now, using the National Bureau Service, they actually train government servants to implement racist and religious supremacist policies in Malaysia. This only came in light in the year 2009. When we speak about the educational discrimination, the Malaysian Indians were actually brought in as indentured laborers by the British government 200 years ago into Malaya. When they left, education did not become the responsibility of the state, because the government said the Indian schools are in private land, so therefore they could not take responsibility. As a result of which, these Indian schools and Chinese schools do not get any funding from the government. Therefore, they don't have adequate educational facilities, no canteens, no science labs, no computer labs. But the Malay Muslim schools get all the benefits. Annually, the government spends billions of dollars in education, but this money does not reach the Indian and the Chinese schools, and I also believe in the Borneo states as well. The schools that were built were exactly like how it was during pre-war, before independence. In very bad shape. Government says they will not do anything. Now, we believe that the government deliberately does this because they want to prevent us from obtaining our mother tongue education. Because when we learn our mother tongue, we also learn our culture, our religion, and also our history and our heritage. The Malay Muslim government, we believe that they have a larger agenda to actually prevent us from continuing to follow our culture and religion. In terms of universities, for example, despite all the odds, many of our children do very well in the education. They get the topmost marks, but they are not given places to study in the universities. Towards the qualifying examination, it is called the A-levels in Malaysia, which qualifies a person to enter university. It's called the STPM examination. They have two different sets of examination, one for the Muslims and one for the non-Muslims. So they make the passing mark for the Muslims very easy and the passing marks for the non-Muslims very difficult. But despite the odds, when the non-Muslims, when I speak, though I represent the Indian community, I also speak for the other races in Malaysia. So despite all the odds, the non-Malays, even though they do well, they denied scholarships and places in universities. What the government would do is, if they excel, they are entitled to do, let's say, medicine, law and engineering. They are given some simple basic courses which obviously they will reject. And then government will use that statistics to show that we have offered the non-Malay Muslims, non-Malay students the places in education, but they have rejected our offer. That's how they manipulate the system. As I said, because they have a racist system, so they can manipulate with the figures. Now, in terms of religious freedom, I'm going to divide it into two areas. In 1988, the Malaysian government amended the federal constitution to recognize or to give an official status for the Muslim Sharia law. At the time of presenting the bill in Parliament, the Prime Minister assured the non-Muslim community that the Sharia law would only be implemented on Muslims and not on the non-Muslim community. But however, after 1988, after the amendment, Sharia law has crept into the lives of non-Muslims in the country. And today, we are subjected to Sharia on various issues of religious conversion. When there are disputes of religious conversions, we are pushed to Sharia courts. Again, the judiciary has abdicated its powers. The judiciary is again filled by the Malay Muslims. They are unable to do anything. The one or two odd non-Muslim judges are unable to deliver justice to us. And this is a statement by a very senior federal court judge, which says that, the High Court has actually abdicated their power. And there are various issues of religious disputes, conversions, etc. People are taken, if you see on the top left, that lady, her name is Bagarama. She was placed in a government welfare home, but she was converted to Islam without her knowledge, without her parents' knowledge, when she was 7 years old. And then when she wants to get married, she's denied her right to get married. Her registration or her marriage to a Hindu husband was not recognized under the law. 2 children born to her family was not given birth certificate because the government say they are Muslims. So what we are saying is, using the Sharia law, they have forced us to seek redress in the Sharia court. So when they want to change their status, they are told to go to Sharia court. Naturally, Sharia court is not going to give an order to say that they have renounced Islam. First thing, they dispute the fact that they ever converted. But there's no way of them getting any form of justice. And in year 2010, the federal court, which is the highest court in the country, delivered a landmark decision which says that they have no jurisdiction over Sharia court matters. Of course, we do agree with that. But our argument is that when there is a dispute, whether a person has converted or not, first they should be tried in the civil court. Let the civil court decide first whether they are Muslim or not. If the civil court decides they are Muslim, fine, they can go there. But here, we are straight, immediately we are pushed to, the moment Sharia court is mentioned, we are immediately pushed to seek redress at the Sharia court. And when it comes to places of worships for the non-Muslims, there is a separate rules for the non-Muslim places of worship. Christian churches are not allowed to be built in the country. No more Christian churches. There was one Christian church in the Shah Alam state which took 20 years to get approval to build. And the government have not allowed Christian churches to be built, as a result of which many evangelical groups have to operate in shop lots, shop houses, buildings, etc. When it comes to the Hindu places of worship, we have been there for 200 years. Our forefathers were brought in, we cleared jungles. When we started the colony of living, we also started the temples. Today, after 200 years, the government says that these temples have been built illegally, without planning permission. Now, the planning permission only came after independence 50 years ago. 200 years ago, there was no planning permission, and it was allowed. The mistake British did was, when they left the country, they did not give us land titles. And when the Muslim government took over, they too had failed in their duty in not giving us land titles to the temple. Till today, they have not issued us with land titles. So from the time of independence to now, which is already 54 years, we believe about 10,000 Hindu temples have been demolished by the government. And there are remaining 23,000 temples in the country, which is also facing the risk of demolition. So they are not providing any solution to it. What we are saying is, if the government is acquiring the land for development purposes. We don't mind moving to a different place, but give us an